Welcome all. I hope we're all ready to have a look at the new features that have been added with V25. A little bit of extra housekeeping on top of what Shane said. This is the CAD session, so this will be running on BricsCAD, but anything you see here today will also be extremely relevant for AutoCAD users. And next week will be the Civil 3D based session for anyone curious about that. As Shane has stated, anything you see today will actually be available in the Civil 3D version as well. But before I say any more, let's get going. So the major reason for this new release, or one of the major reasons I should say, is that we have made the software compatible with the latest versions of Civil 3D, AutoCAD, and BricsCAD. As you're all aware, we need to keep up to date with our primary products. So we have updated for that. And we have also made sure to update to the .NET 8 framework, which is primarily for our AutoCAD and Civil 3D users. This will allow the software to work on there and can be run up as needed. We have also introduced new licensing with the latest version of the software. Anyone who is curious about network licensing, please let us know. We now have that available within the software, along with standalone. So you can see here we have an example of a standalone license that's been activated. You can see our new license manager. And I will show you guys how to access the license manager shortly. But I just want you guys to be aware of that. If you are looking to get your license keys, you will have to gain access to our customer portal. This can be accessed either via an email that was sent out when the software first launched, or through our website, depending on how you're wanting to access it. Once you gain access to the customer portal, you will find all your keys load up within this interface here, ready for you to bring down and access your software with. A little bit of extra information. You can even use this to see what computers are using it, which can be used to notify you which user is using it and modify it as needed. Go to that user and ask them to leave the key or deactivate the key, I should say, and go from there. Furthermore, off of this page, you can also use this to find our installation activation guide, which will help you walk through the steps. And you can also access any prior versions using the Customer Center if need be. If anyone has any questions on that, please let us know. We're more than happy to help you guys walk through the new licensing. So now we move on to some of the new tools that have been added to the software. So the first of these new tools is the Traverse tools. And this is a new feature that has been added with V25. With the new Traverse editor, you are able to go ahead and adjust four different methods for your Traverse. The first of these is Bowdage. Bowdage allows you to go ahead and adjust both your angles and lengths as needed. From my own experience, I find this is the most common one within Australia. We seem to use this one the most. So that is the one that will be set in your software by default. Transit allows you to basically do your adjustment based on lengths. So all your lengths will be adjusted out while trying to keep your angles as needed to close your Traverse. Crandall is the third method. What this does is the opposite of transit. It keeps your lengths as accurate as possible, as close to the original as possible, while changing the angles, again, to close off this Traverse. The last one is Grantline. Grantline is going to be used if you have an open survey or an open Traverse, so you haven't gone ahead and closed it. You'll be asked if you run this to close or tell it what the close point is, and it will close it off from there. Once you have run these adjustment types, you're able to get a report out along with creating any points you may have run and the line work. So we're actually going to run up an example now. So I'm going to switch over to BricsCAD. So we're running in BricsCAD at the moment. I have some points already brought in here. So we'll make these a bit bigger so we can see them. And we've got a few different methods of bringing this data in. I'm going to show three methods that I quite like, and you guys will be able to decide between yourselves which method you guys like to run up the most. The first one is for anyone that's familiar with our cadastral lines tool. So I've gone ahead and added in all of this data based on the points within our cadastral lines tool. I've gone ahead and added all this in. And what I can do once I've imported this data, I can go down to the Travis Editor button down the bottom here. Now, this allows me to very quickly open up the Travis Editor, a new tool that's available in our ribbon, and I can see all of the line work that I've added in. So all this information here is shown on here. I can see all of my legs, and I can see that the adjustment has already been applied to this data. You'll notice that the data within the drawing hasn't been applied just yet. It's only giving it to me in this visual space for me to go ahead and do any edit I want to do. Now, let's say at the moment it's set to do a bowdage adjustment. Let's say I didn't want that. I wanted to instead do a transit one. So I simply drop down the method here and select transit, and it goes ahead and runs out that adjustment. You can see how quickly it's doing that adjustment for me. It's running all this up as needed as I switch between the three different methods. So if I keep it on bowdage for now, I can then go ahead and customize this further. We can see up here, I have a bearing of 84 degrees, 57 minutes and 42 seconds, 0.49. You're able to customize as many decimal places as you need here, depending on what you need as a surveyor. Let's say for my decimal bearings, I didn't need to, I actually wanted it to be 0. And for my distance decimals, I wanted this to be 4 decimal places. You can see how quickly I'm able to apply that and see what's going on here. So I'm able to run up those adjustments as needed. If I didn't want to run in degrees, minutes, seconds for my angles, if it turns out I wanted instead to have quadrant bearings, I'm able to switch that across. So if you have any dealings with clients that want to run in quadrant bearings, you can switch between these. I know I've run into some old plans that have quadrant bearings written up in them, can come up from time to time. If you need to run using those, you can run that up. Now, for exporting any of this data, at the moment, I'm able to run create points. Create points will create the points within the survey itself. So if I move this out of the way a bit, we'll close that cadastral line because I don't need it. I can go create points. It's asking what code do I want these points to be on. So let's call them 004 for a Travis point, an instrument station. I'm going to go OK. It's asking what code set this is going to be applied to. I'm going to be applying this to numeric layers. And then we can see that I now have other points created in here based on the data from the Travis. So I can go ahead and remove the old points now. I no longer need them and run it up from there. Furthermore, though, if I wanted to export the line work with it, I can drop down output. So I'll move this out of the way again. I can drop down output, and you can see we have the ability to also draw in the Travis. So you're also able to add line work to your drawing as well. So within here, we can set the Travis layer. So I'll set this to 004, the same as the points I just created. The text layer can be set to whichever you wish as well. I'll set it to, again, 004. The text style will read whatever styles you currently have in the drawing. So I'll stick with ISO CP as it's what I generally use. Text height will be to a 1-to-1 scale, and it'll modify from there. So at the moment, because I'm set at 1 to 5,000, this will come out at, 12 millimeters in height. The offset label will offset the labeling from the line. So when I create these, you'll actually see that it will create the bearings and distances with them. This controls how far off the line those labels are going to be. So I'm going to go OK here, and we can see that the labels have been created with the offset I specified, and the line work has also been created here. So all of this can be done using the brand new Travis editor. Now, if I wanted to push this out as a report for any report keeping purposes, we do also have an Excel report function. Running this up, you'll be asked where do you want to place it. So I'm just going to place it into this file here. I'm going to go save. It's going to tell me that the Excel report has been pushed out. And by going back to that database there, you can see I have this new file that's been created. And I can see all the calculations that have been run to get the Travis to where I want it to be. So you're able to use this to just make sure everything's as you want. You can see any of the values that have been inputted and use that as needed. So I'll leave that for you guys to investigate and use as you wish. Now, another method you may want to use for running up a traverse is you may want to actually select points. So I have a drawing here. I haven't created these using cadastral line. These are just points that have been created either off an old plan. I've imported them for a different job. It doesn't matter how you've gotten these in. This time I'm going to go straight to Traverse Editor. So I'm starting in a blank job here. So let's just shrink him down a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go add Traverse. That's going to cause the window to minimize and allow me to now select the points in the order I wish them to be shown. So I'm going to start at point number 1 down here, and I'm just going to make my way up north. Now, in this case, I have an open traverse. I don't have a closed one. So my traverse adjustments, my bowdage adjustment is not going to be able to close off successfully. You can see down here, it doesn't look right. That's because we're not going from the point up top to the bottom. We're wanting to use this as an open traverse. In this kind of situation, you would want to run what's called the grant line method. Once you've selected the grant line adjustment, you'll be asked to select an endpoint. You can see here, if I switch back to bowdage, that option disappears. So I'm wanting to select an endpoint for it to be able to run off of. Just go to where your endpoint is within the drawing here, select that, and you can see it's now run up my adjustment for me to be able to look through and use as needed. Exact same rules apply as to what we ran earlier. I'm able to create points within the drawing based on this. So if I move this out of the way, I can go create points. So we'll call these 1004 again. So those points have been created. You can see down here, we've got one at a different spot. And then I can drop down output, go draw traverse. And we'll set this to 004 again. And we can see that that has all been added in, ready for me to use in whatever job I may wish. So these can be very powerful tools to be able to run with. The last method you can use to get to Traverse Editor and do any adjustments is if you have a survey you have brought in using import and reduce. If you have control points you're wanting to edit before you brought in data or after you brought in data, it's up to you. You can go into Connect, so import and reduce Connect, drop down Control. You can see you have the Traverse Editor here. I prefer running it from Control Editor, but you can run it from here if you wish. So opening up Control Data, I'm going to go Traverse Editor, and you can see our points have been added in here, ready for us to adjust using any of the 4 methods. So those are the different ways you can go about running the Traverse Editor and what you might want to use them for. Now, the next part I want us to have a look at is our new editing functionality. So within the software, some new commands have been added that allow users to very rapidly edit their points. And these are the quick edit command and the points list command. If you're wanting for quick editing of key properties, you may wish to have a look at the quick edit command. It allows you to rapidly select the command, click the point, and then do edits on the point number, elevation, and code, but you are limited to those 3 properties. If you're wanting more information and you're still wanting that rapid code editing, I recommend having a points list. Points list allows you to edit any set properties that have been set for the point. So by running this up, whatever's been set using point styles, point properties, any of that can be seen here, and you're able to edit it as needed. It also gives you a list of all the points, and you're able to, all the points based on point groups, and you can filter these out as needed. So it can be a very powerful tool for this. If you're wanting to edit all properties of a point without any limits, you may wish to have a look at the edit point command. Edit points is a command that existed in the software as of V23 and allows you to edit every single property of a point that we can think of. This can also allow you to add properties and modify those added properties as needed. So running it up within BricsCAD, I have a drawing here that I may wish to do edits on. And let's say I wanted to quickly edit this point in the middle. I can go up to the new quick edit command on the ribbon, select that, and then select the point I wish to edit. Once selected, you'll be offered to be able to edit any of these functions here. So let's say I want to change the elevation to 98 instead of 88. I'm able to do that edit. You can see it dynamically gets applied in the drawing. My surface is already updated with that change, and I'm ready to go ahead and do any further edits I may want to do. So I can go close now, press enter to run the command again, select the next point I wish to do the edit to, and then do further edits as needed. So this can be a very quick way of going ahead and doing any edits you may want to do. So as I change these back, you can see how quickly I'm able to run this. But let's say I wanted to do these edits on a larger scale, and I wanted to do deeper edits. Let's say I have codes I'm wanting to change from the tree point group here. So anyone familiar with the tool space that has been added with V24, I have access to all the point groups that currently have information attached to them. And in this case, I'm wanting to edit information attached to trees. So I can right click on the point group and go to points list. And this is going to open up the point list editing tool. Now from here, any edits I want to do, for instance, I have the code TR here for a number of my trees. I'm not wanting them to be TR, I'm wanting them to be 201. So I can just enter that information into the cell. I'm able to very quickly get around and do these edits as needed. If I wanted to do this on a larger scale, let's say I wanted to work in Contourable, I wanted to do edits to this. I can open up the points list to Contourable, and let's say I wanted to do edits to anything in the point range of 2,100. I'm able to enter that in. It can't find an exact value for, sorry, done the wrong way around. Let's say 1,200. Now it's found point number 1,200. That's the first option I have to work with. Any other ones that are slightly similar to it, it's also grabbed them ready for me to do any edits that I may wish to do. So it's dynamically trying to find a way of giving you information you may want. So if I wanted to do edits here, let's say I wanted to modify the elevation, I can do that, just simply select this in here, enter the value that I wish, and it gets updated as I need. To update the drawing with any changes you do, you can go update survey strings to make the edit occur. So where this is beneficial is, let's say I do a large amount of edits to this. I modify a few of these to be 97. I can do all these edits, and let's say you have a job that numbers in the tens of thousands ranges in terms of points. Now, if your computer is having issues with this, it's an older system and it's struggling with the large point numbers, what you can do is use this to do a large amount of edits to your survey and then apply an update after you've done the edits. Because you're not doing any heavy lifting, all you're doing is setting these changes to occur. Once you're done with the edits, you can then go update survey strings, walk away, go get a coffee, go get a snack, talk to a mate, whatever you may wish. And when you come back to the computer, all of your changes have been done and it has freed up your time to be able to do what you may need to do. So you can see how quickly I'm able to go ahead and do these edits. And you can see that the drawing's not changing until I tell it to. Now, the other aspect of this is that if I don't hit update and I just close it, you can see that the updates are occurring still. You don't have to run the update strings at that time. Closing that dialog box also does the same thing. So don't worry if you close it, all your changes will be applied as needed. Now, if you're wanting to go a step further, if you're wanting to edit points on a much deeper level, I recommend the edit point command. Edit points allows you to select the point, very similar to the quick edit tool, open it up, and you can see I have a whole bunch of different properties that I'm able to edit for this point. Now, if the point doesn't have the ability to hold the property that I select, you won't be able to apply any edits. I don't believe this one, yep, it doesn't have a scale, so it's just saying this property cannot be edited as it doesn't exist. So you will get a warning if it doesn't exist at that time. I will show you when we start working in extended point properties later how to modify that. But for now, just know if you need to edit any of this information, let's say I wanted to make this a different value, I'm able to modify that, go apply changes, and you can see that it's been applied within the drawing. I just have a lot more options than if I ran something such as edit point. So you have three different ways of being able to edit this data as needed. Just to reiterate, the first is quick edit, allowing you to do rapid editing of points on an individual level. You have points lists, which can be accessed by right-clicking, on the point group you wish to use and go points list. And the last one of edit point, which allows you to edit every aspect of a point as needed. For anyone curious about where the ribbon version of points list may exist, you can find it here on the ribbon. Just keep in mind, it will ask you which point group you're wanting to apply this to. It's the reason I like showing it through the tool space instead of running it through the ribbon. Next up, we have data interrogation. A new feature that got added with V25 is the new point inquiry tool, which allows you to interrogate the information between 2 points, including getting information such as 2D and 3D distances, something that anyone familiar with the HD command in the past may find to be highly useful. This allows you to very easily simplify the information between the 2 points and not have to be limited to the command box in terms of getting that data. So to run up inquire points, it exists on the ribbon under query survey. Run up the command and you'll be asked to select 2 COGO points. Now you can enter the values in here if you know the point numbers you want to go between. Personally though, I find it far easier to just use these 2 selection tools on the side here. So if I want to select the first one, I just select that, select the point in question that I'm wanting to apply this to. Select the second point I'm wanting to apply it to, just pick one in the drawing, and you can see it fills in the information as needed. I can see my 2D distance, 3D distance, the angle between them, the difference in height, all the information I may need. So this is a very powerful tool for being able to get that information. If I wanted it to be a different point number, I don't even have to get rid of the information. Let's say I wanted to switch out my point number 1. I actually wanted to get the information based on one out here. I'm able to get that information and it updates everything based on that. So it's a very handy tool for being able to run all that up, for being able to get that information and then use it as needed within the software. So again, inquire points, it can just be found under the query survey tool. A new feature that got added to point groups within the ribbon is 2D transformations. So 2D transformations are a feature that has been requested by many users now. And what it's allowing you to do is move, scale, rotate, and offset the point group in question by whatever values you enter. So to run this up, all you have to do is within the drawing you currently have, get access to the point group command. So either by selecting it in here or by simply right-clicking on, going to the point group in question and just opening it up from here. So depending on whichever method you want to run to open this, both of them will lead to the same result here. Now, let's say I'm wanting to edit the contourable one. I'm wanting to apply information to this. I can select this one here. If I'm wanting this to occur to all of my points, I can leave just one of them highlighted. In this case, any 2D transformation I run will be applied to all information within this point group. If I want it to only be applied to a few of the points, I can hold down Control and select the points that I'm wanting this transformation to be applied to. If you're uncomfortable just leaving one point selected, or if you're not sure, something I like to do is just go Control A. That will highlight all the points ready for you to be able to edit. It's up to you which method you want to run with. Personally, I like having all of them highlighted. So dropping down options, you can see we have a number of different editing tools here that were introduced with prior versions, but the latest one that's been added is the 2D transformation. Within here, I'm able to move, scale, rotate, and offset. So for an example, if I wanted to move the data here, I'm selecting that transformation. It's confirming this is what I'm wanting to run. And then it's asking me to select a base point. So let's select this one down here. And now it's asking me, okay, where do you want to move this to? What point are you wanting me to move this to? So in this case, let's say we want to move it over here. Scroll out a bit so we make it a bit obvious that we're moving him. And we can see that he moves in association with the point that I had selected. If I wanted to instead scale the drawing, let's say you've gone out, you've done the survey and you're needing to switch it between grid and ground in terms of adjusting it. Running up scale can be a very useful tool for that. So we'll enter scale. It's going to ask us, are you sure this is what you're wanting to run? I'm going to go yes. And then select the point you're wishing to scale off of. So again, I'm going to select that point down there. You can enter whatever value you want this to be. It can be to any decimal places. So more than likely you're going to run something to 9.9977 around there. You can do so. To make it a bit obvious in this demo, I will keep the default of scaling up with 2. So it's going to scale all of my data up by 2. Keep in mind, this won't scale up the size of your points. If you're wanting to scale up your display for your points, your line work, whatever you want to run up, you're going to want to use the annotation display down here. So I'm going to select OK here, and you can see it's scaled up my data by 2 for all of those points. That's how we intend this command to be run. The other options here is the ability to rotate your data based on 2 points and the ability to offset your data based on a bearing of your choosing. So all 4 of those commands are very powerful and can be extremely useful when manipulating your data. A new thing that we are looking at moving forward is the ability to add extra properties to all of your data. This includes adding information to your points. In the future, we hope to look at adding this information to line work and such. And the first step in this is the ability to have an Excel connection to your data. So what you're able to do is you're able to set up properties within your points and then link those properties to an Excel spreadsheet of your choosing, either previously created or as we'll do in a few minutes, we can create it ready for data to be added in. So this is a great way if you have something similar to what we're going to do today, which is trees. If you're needing to add in the types of trees into your data quickly, what you can do is set up an Excel spreadsheet with those types, associate them based on point numbers. So the point number provides the software a link to the points themselves, and then update the information within the newly created type property, which we'll be creating, into the data itself. This is an extremely powerful tool, especially with the fact that this is a live link. So if you go back out in the field and you find that the maple tree you picked up is actually a birch tree, you're able to quickly modify that in the Excel document, resync the file, and it populates everything again based on that change. The command can be really powerful and run in particular ways. PIDs is another area we see this being extremely valuable for, along with various other aspects. Now, with this has also come the ability to export out a lot of these extra properties. Again, one of these new export methods, along with the previous ones that we have, is the ability to export out an Esri shape format. This is the common format for a lot of companies that need to work with this extra property data. And we allow you to export that out into a location of your choosing for you to be able to bring into whatever program you may wish. So we're going to go through an example of this now. So just for a minute, I'm going to take us back to basics here. What we're going to do is modify a point or a series of points so that they are able to hold this extra information. So the one I'm going to be working with today is trees. I'm going to be associating new information to that. So I'm just going to zoom in here and make sure my code. So I'm looking for the 201 code. 201 code is based on my trees, and that's the one I'm going to be editing. If you already know which code you're wanting to be using for this, that's awesome. But in this case, I'm just wanting to go through so I can see that my point style is tree. So I'm going to want to associate the new property that I'm going to be adding to the tree point style. So from here, I'm going to go to point styles. I'm going to scroll through my list of styles until I get to tree. And then I need to associate a new property using the point property list. From here, we can see a list of all the data that we have in here. I'm going to add a custom property, and that custom property is going to be type. Once the custom property of type has been applied, this point style is now loaded with that point property. That point property can now be seen by the software and it's able to read it. However, at this stage, I haven't applied that to any of my points. It's only the point style that has it. So if you've made any changes to your point styles, your description key set, any of these different fields, you would also want to do this. But what we're going to do now is update the data in the drawing based on what I have just added. So we're going to go into the point groups interface again. You can do this to all points actually. Let's run it on all points. I'm going to select all the points in this database, go down to options, and now this time I'm going to be going to, my apologies. I'm going to be setting it up. I'm going to be setting this up to use these settings. So dropping down options, I'm going to go apply settings from code set. It's going to ask me, okay, which code set am I pulling these settings from? So this time I'm going to be using it from numeric individual layers, as that's the one that I have applied this to. The 201 code room is the one that we have modified the point style for. And that point style now holds that information. All of these points did not have anything applied to them. So regardless of what I use for type, it won't have any of that. Only the tree point code will. Now we actually want to look at applying this data to it. So again, I'm going to go on point groups. We're going to go to trees, as what we're going to be doing is pulling all this data in and associating it with our trees. In this case, everything in this top row here is associated with exporting. So technically what we're doing, what we're going to be doing in a minute is we're going to be exporting out the data, the format of the data ready for us to enter. We're going to be exporting out the property. So I want to use the property list in this case, and I then need to set up what property list is being used for this export. So within here, I want to add a new custom property. Now, make sure that this has the same name as the point styles. So type's what I'm wanting to use here. I'm going to go OK, and then I can go apply. So we can see we have point number, X, Y, elevation code, and finally type, which is the field that we're wanting to populate. Now from here, we're going to want to export that property ready for us to edit, and then link it to an Excel document for it to be able to dynamically update that information. So you have a few different ways of doing this. If you're wanting to purely export the data, you're not wanting to link it until later on, you can run up Excel export. This will export all of the data. It will allow you to, every time you make a change within the drawing, the Excel file will update with that information, but you won't be reading the data from the Excel back into the drawing, which is not what we're wanting to run in this case, but I just wanted to show off that you do have that capability. In this case, we're going to be importing the data from Excel. Now, importing the data from Excel also allows you to link and export the data. It's why I prefer running directly from here. You can run it so that you've exported it out of the other one and then you run the importer to import it. But in my understanding of the software, I find this to be a much easier method. So we need to set up an Excel workbook for us to work with. So I'm going to select the little plus icon here, and we're going to call this tree type. The file name we have to create. So I'm going to select the Excel icon here to create a new Excel document. But if you wish, you can also select the folder icon to select an already existing document. So I'm going to select this one here. That location's fine. This is where we were earlier. And I'm going to enter in tree type, just so I keep consistency with what I'm calling things. And then I'm going to go OK, and that's going to set up the document ready for me to work with. Now you have other aspects you're able to work with here. If you're wanting to work with alignment, you have the ability to work with that. Vertical profiles, design data, all that can be used. But for what we're working today, we're working COGO point groups. And what we're going to want to do is we're working property controls. But you do have the ability to edit any of these other aspects as needed. So selecting property control, to open that, all you need to do is double click on it. We're able to look through here. We can see it's already selected the workbook based on what we set up here. If you have multiple sheets, you can actually set it up to read off any of those different ones. But in this case, we're going to want to set it to use the tree point group, and the property we're wanting to apply this to is type. So in this case, we're applying it to these two areas. Now, the point number location is vital. The point numbers need to line up with what you have within your point group. If the point numbers don't line up, it doesn't know what it's applying the data to. So keep that in mind. This also applies to the point property. We're exporting out the property type, and that's the field we're wanting to link. We need to make sure that when we start entering the data, it's starting from this location. So we'll be looking for cell B1 for the start of that data, and it's going to go vertically down the column instead of using the row. So you're something to keep in mind. Once you're ready, select Startup Excel Export, and it's going to say, okay, how am I exporting this? You can set this up prior. I've just got mine set to test. Going to go OK. And if we look back in that folder I had earlier, you can see we now have a tree type exported Excel file ready for us to edit. So if I open up that file now, within here, we can see the point numbers have been exported, but because the property field has been emptied, that type field that we saw earlier is empty, nothing has been exported here because it didn't have anything to look at. All I'm going to do is enter some tree types. And I'll do Maple twice, it's fine. And then I'm simply just going to save this Excel document. Once this is done, all I need to do is then go run Excel link. That's going to link the Excel file to the point group or to the database. And then if I go back to point groups now, and I go to trees, you can see it's pulled in that information where applicable. So that's being linked in by that. But if I make any changes to that database, I can also come back up here, and sync links is the option that's automatically selected, ready for me to work with. So I'm able to sync that information as needed anytime I make an update to the Excel document. It's a very powerful tool, allows you to very quickly add information to your drawing as needed. And I hope I'm really getting that across. Now, if you're wanting to export any of that data, if I go back into point groups here, and I go back to trees, you're able to export using any of these options at the top here. The first two allow you to set up the information, and then past there, you have the ability to export out a CSV/text file based on the information found here. So by default, I'd be exporting out point, easting, northing, elevation, and description. That wouldn't include the type, so type would not be exported in this case. You can customize this file though as needed with this pen icon. It will allow you to add different properties to this list to be exported with it as needed. So you have full control over that. Anyone who's interested in setting up a database using Google Earth, something we're seeing pop up a bit more these days, you are able to export out a KML file, which can be automatically opened by Google Earth, ready to be worked on as needed. The last option is the one that's been added with V25, and that's the ability to export out an Esri shapefile. By selecting the export of the Esri shapefile, you can see here it's automatically selected the shapefile as needed. If I just navigate back to our folder, I can name this tree export, hit enter, and you see it's already gone ahead and created the shapefiles as needed. And if I come back in here and update my folder, you can see we have the shape files being formed. You'll see here that it says tree export points. I didn't export anything with line work, so let's do that quickly. Move over here. Let's export contourable out, which actually has line work attached to it. So I'm exporting out the shape file. You'll see it's already gone back to documents. So I'm just going to go back to the folder location, and we'll call this one contourable. I'm exporting this file out. If we have a look at this file now, we can see that we've got a points shapefile and a string shapefile ready to be imported into whatever platform you need. So it's a really interesting way of being able to export out any of that data as needed. Cool. So with that, we've gone over a lot of the core functionality that's been added with the latest version of the software. We've had a look at brand new Travis editor, which allows you to rapidly go around and do any Travis adjustments you may need. We've had a look at the ability to do edits to your database with whatever method you may want to use out of the quick edit, points list edit, and the editing point command. We've had a look at being able to do 2D transformations using the options found in here. And we've had a look at the brand new Excel Connect that allows users to be able to link in their data using an Excel spreadsheet as needed. So with that, I thank everyone for attending this webinar. As stated, today's session was aimed primarily at our BrooksCAD and AutoCAD users. Any Civil 3D users that are wanting to learn about what's new in the Civil 3D version, please attend the webinar based, currently I believe it's aiming for next Friday. You should have received a link earlier in the week to be able to access that. And the webinar should be uploaded within 48 hours to our YouTube channel for anyone that may have missed anything today. With that, I will hand back to my co-host Shane, and thank you all for attending.
Well, thank you, Jack. A very informative session. It's great to sort of hit the highlights reel of what we're doing with Stringer and our push to work with more data, build in attributes, work with properties, and make it easier for you to edit and adjust your survey. So just with regards to what happens after this, we will be posting the webcast up onto our YouTube page. You can see it there. So again, if you've had to step out at any point, you probably won't see this page. But if you'd like to share it with colleagues or there are bits you missed in the middle, that's the path. Hop in there and you'll find the webcast up there. Just in terms of questions, if anybody has any questions, please pop them into the Q&A right now, and we'll endeavour to answer them. Most of the questions that have come in, I've answered as we went. There was a slight misspelling on the first slide, or a number incorrect. We quoted May 2025, so a little bit far ahead. We meant May 2024. But otherwise, we'll just pause for a moment, see if anybody's got any other questions to ask. While people are madly poking those questions away, as Jack said, we've implemented a new licensing system, and essentially we've enabled network licensing that unfortunately was disabled for a while. So I encourage any customers who have or had access to network licensing in Stringer, certainly pop into the latest version and enjoy network capabilities again. So looks like no questions have come through. So great work, Jack, and thank you everybody for attending. It's a pleasure to have you in the session, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. And as Jack did say, we are doing another webcast Friday of next week, focusing on the improvements with a flavour of Civil 3D users. So if you are a Civil 3D user, please keep an eye out for that. You'll undoubtedly get an email from us just before the session commencement with an opportunity to register. but you may have already received an email with that invite. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in the next webcast. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks all. Bye.